We're here at the FMX 2017 and I'm talking to VFX artist Christian Bohm. And we want to chat a little bit about the state of the industry, what you should know about it if you want a job as an animator or a VFX artist, and where there's maybe some room for improvements. We studied together, not in the same year, but at the Film Academy, and we were part of a student group. And we called ourselves, I think in the lack of a better name, we called ourselves Faire FX. Can you tell us a little bit what that was all about and how that started?
So, it all started actually at the FMX because there was a talk with a couple of CEOs of big companies. And it was basically, I can't remember what the main topic was, but the topic was something around, okay, what is the state of the industry? And of course, all those CEOs had a very specific position, and they had to be very careful what they're saying because there was a lot of money in stake and all that stuff. So it ended up being like, oh, everything is great, we have no problems. And a lot of us came out of it and we were furious because, no, it's not. We have a lot of problems. So we decided, okay, we have to change that. We have to actually, at the very least, talk about those things that are problematic. So that's the reason we created this group first, and then we ended up doing this discussion round that was yesterday that we have every year here at the FMX now for 4 or 5 years now. It's called State of the Industry. And the main idea is that we as artists talk about openly, not necessarily condemning anything or anyone or any particular company, but simply sharing ideas, sharing knowledge, and talking about the experiences we have. Because often it's simply, someone knows something, someone has a good tip, and people are like, oh, I had no idea about this, and already this is helpful. And this is what this discussion round and the group was about.
Maybe to establish that a little bit, talk about what are the problems in the first place? What are some of the events that happened that should make you think?
I mean, a couple of things. I mean, obviously, it's about one of the main questions, obviously, can we live from the wages we earn for our job? I mean, we're all passionate about it. But very often we notice, what we earn, what we get money-wise is okay if you think about it first, but then you have to think about stuff like, in the long run, stuff like pensions and all that stuff, and all of a sudden you realize, oh wow, we have a problem here. Can we actually live from that? Especially as a student, as a beginner, as a junior. I mean, the good news is the first 2 years or 3 years maybe are not what it stays like. So this is something I learned, and a lot of people should be aware that when you a student or a junior, then it looks way worse than it actually is, because you only see this area of the first 2 or 3 years. But all of us most of us at the very least are now, I think, at a point where we can say, oh, it became much better for us personally, because now we way further, up the ladder, which just happens if you love your job, and then all of a sudden it looks way brighter. So this is the good news. On the other hand, the wages obviously were a problem. Then stuff like overtime, which still is part of the job. So the thing with overtime is it definitely exists, and part of it is, this is a general thing, it exists because we allow it. We as artists accept it. And then afterwards, after we did it, we complain about it. This is a general problem, I think, which is one of the reasons we created this discussion group on the FMX. As long as you as an artist allow something to happen, it will not change. So the first thing is talk about it between artists. And overtime is one thing. If you're willing to do it, it will happen. If you're not, imagine you're in a studio and everybody leaves at the right time, then it wouldn't be even a topic. Nobody would question it, but we don't do it. We keep working and then we complain afterwards. So this is, I think, already the solution to that problem. But overtime obviously is a problem. My personal opinion is only stay as long as you are willing to stay. And I say that because I'm sometimes willing to stay longer, because I'm in a problem, working on a problem. All of us can agree on that. I think we are on something that we really enjoy, so we stay longer because we want to. And this, I think, is absolutely fine. But if you don't want to, and if you feel you have to, you should have the, sorry my French, have the balls to just stand up and leave. That's important. The fact that everything gets cheaper and the pressure is rising, I think that's also not fully true, because that's something we talked about yesterday, and actually last year as well. One good thing again that we have to face is that there's more and more need every year for content. I mean, now we have VR, we have AR, we have VFX in TV series, we have games, of course, in all kinds of levels, AAA games as much as indie games, and I think last year on Steam, for example, there were more releases for games than ever before. So you can see the need for content is rising, and this is a good thing, because that means we have way more wiggle room to argue about our conditions. So competition is there, but at the same time, currently we're in a state where the competition for us artists is lower because people need us. So that kind of solved itself a little bit. I think we went through a phase where it was really heavy, and now we're back again. I mean, let's see how long that lasts, but at least currently we're in a state, I feel, and a lot of people yesterday agreed. For example, we had Markus Kranzler at the panel, who works at Pixar right now, so he was able to talk a little bit about the American market. And he said, yeah, even in America, which is, as we know, a bit less competitive currently, because Vancouver is, when we talk about VFX, Vancouver is competing with them, and the UK as well, which both can create content cheaper. So the American market is actually not in a good state, but even they are growing, according to Marcus. So that just shows we're in a good state currently. Still means we have to fight ourselves to get the conditions we want. But now it's much easier. What else? I'm sure there must be more. I mean, maybe short-time contracts, but this is a general thing in the industry, I think. I mean, short-time, 2 months, that's short. But 1 year, for example, is not considered short in our industry. And it's also kind of, at some point, it's kind of a good thing, because then you can, if people see your skills, it's a possibility to actually ask for more money when the contract ends, and it's also a possibility to actually look around for other studios that might want to work with you. You're not tied to one studio. I see that as an advantage, especially, like I said, in the current situation. But this is not going to change. But I wouldn't necessarily condemn the studios for that. The problem with our industry is that it's project-based, so that will never change. I mean, there are full-time employments out there, but a lot of work is still contracted for a certain amount of time, for a fixed time, simply because it's project-based. Even the studios don't know what happens in 2 years. How should they? So that's hard to hold against them.
One question that we artists are always confronted with, maybe from our parents, is the question if we can live from this job, or if we should rather get a real job or something. What do you think? Can we live from this?
I think I answered that in a couple of parts that I talked about before. You have to be aware that the way it doesn't have to be like that, but that's my experience. Your wages will rise dramatically over a couple of years. So even if you start relatively low, you can rise quite quickly if you know how to do it. The reason you start low is simply because nobody knows you. Nobody knows for sure that you can deliver, and you have to understand that point of view. It's a lot of money that they potentially lose if you're not capable of doing what they want. But at the same time, if you show them that you are a problem solver, you can solve their problem. Like, okay, we need something quick and it has to be good, and who do we give it to? And they know they can trust you with that work, whatever that may be. It can be modeling, animation, compositing, doesn't matter. As soon as you show the studios that you're capable of doing that, money is all of a sudden not a big problem anymore, and that's a good thing. So if you love your job, in my experience, that helps massively to become good in your job. It's simply that in the beginning nobody knows you, but it goes very quickly in this industry that you can climb up the ladder if you're clever and if you make the right decisions. For example, a bad decision would be, okay, well, I'm biased on that a bit, but my experience is VFX feature film is a pretty bad area of moving up. And this is something we talked about yesterday. Be more open. One problem a lot of studios have is that they think, okay, I want one thing and one thing only, without being open-minded about other options. My experience, for example, was I worked in film, and I always wanted to work in film, like the most students, and I didn't like it. I didn't end up liking it because that's not the way I enjoy to work. It's too slow for me, too specific in the departments. And it turns out now I work in commercials, and I love it. It's exactly what I was looking for. I just didn't know. And this is a good thing, you know. Being open doesn't mean you have to sacrifice what you want, but more find out what you actually want first. Because very often I feel people don't know. I met a lot of people in film who started in a film, and for their whole career they stayed in film. They never seen anything else. How are they supposed to know what they actually want? Maybe something else is maybe more fun for them, and maybe not. I mean, who knows? But that's the point. Nowadays you can way easier change between commercials, film, games, VR, all those things. And I think especially in the beginning, it's a very good idea to try things out, to find, oh, I like that to my surprise, or I didn't like that to my surprise. It's happened to me and happened to other people as well. So this is a good thing, because then you're not tied to one particular industry that maybe is not as good to you as other industries, like feature film. I mean, feature film is like 30 years old. It's the old thing, the old slow thing. And then there are all the new things that are with way more options and possibilities. And this is a very good tip I would give to beginners. Be open-minded. There's so many things happening right now that you should use that to your advantage.
I think what's very important to see that that our work is project-based is a great chance to discover what you like and what you don't like that. And for example, the animation students, if you talk to most of them, they will tell you, I want to work at Disney, I want to work at Pixar. But even during their studies, sometimes they change their opinion. Sometimes they realize, oh, I really like doing texturing.
Yes.
And
what's the same with me?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. You should be open for that and use that opportunity. And I think what's also interesting is that I think in more traditional jobs, you move up the ladder in the same company. But in VFX, you build a reputation that helps you to get the next project at a completely different company.
I mean, a lot of people even say, when it comes to pure wages, it's a good idea, at least for London, but I think it's a general rule. If you change companies often, especially in the beginning, it's much easier asking for more money, because they basically don't know you, but they see what you're capable of on your reel, obviously, and then you can ask for more money than you could if you would stay at one company. So especially in the beginning, like I said before, moving to a lot of places, to figure out, okay, where is maybe something I like personally, besides the wages. Obviously, wages is not the only one, but also by moving often, you can raise your income. And so there are two good reasons to do that in the beginning. At some point, I think it makes a lot of sense to stay with the company, especially if you like it there. But to find that first, you have to, travel a little bit between the companies and maybe also cities. I mean, that's part of the industry, of course, often. So I think, yes, it's actually a very good advice to try a lot of things out, also for rising your wages. Yeah.
So, of course, another concern of people getting into the industry is the question of where do I get my education? And yes, maybe also very important to talk about, what types of schools are there? Is an expensive school better than a less expensive school? What kind of school do I need to get a good job?
I would even go so far to ask, do I even need a school? I absolutely think the nice thing about the industry, it's first of all, it doesn't depend at all on any document. Like, you don't need a diploma or anything to get into the industry. I met people who were investment bankers before. I met people who were cooks before, like chefs. And and they became supervisors. So you don't even have to go to a school to learn this, which is great. All that matters, and I can't repeat that often enough, is your reel. Which is might be a bad thing for certain people because maybe they didn't have the chance to create actual content, but it's definitely good for a couple of people because you can literally do that in your basement at home if you're capable of that. Just sit in your basement for 3 years, create a killer reel, and then you can start in the industry. That's absolutely possible. The problem with that is I, for example, couldn't do that. You need this constant drive to keep doing that for yourself, and not a lot of people have that. If you have that, do it. It's absolutely possible, and nothing stops you from doing it. The good thing about university for me, for example, was that you have like-minded people around you, and that means they push you further than you could push yourself, and that's very helpful. But it's not necessarily so much, in my opinion, because of what people teach you at the school. It's more like a place of experiencing a certain mindset, and this is to answer the other question. That is a way to choose a good school. It's way more about your other students and your state of mind that is important rather than what your teachers teach you. I mean, I think we can agree that Film Academy is a very good school, but still, I would say from the teachers there, I learned maybe 20%. The rest was purely the fact that I was pushing myself, exercising and practicing my stuff. 10 hours a day, and it doesn't matter where you do that really, and that also answers: are expensive schools the best ones? There are a few exceptions of really good and expensive schools. I don't think we cannot name them. Gnomon School is very good. Vancouver Film School, I heard very good things about. Escape Studios are very good. All of them are expensive, but they're worth it. On the other hand, I'm not giving names here. There are a lot of expensive schools, in my opinion, that are absolutely not worth the money. But like I said, the main thing is the environment they create. And I mean, no, it doesn't have to be expensive. It's all about the quality. One tip I would give is talk to students, not who are at the school right now, but also who finished the school, who graduated from that school, and ask them afterwards. Because a lot of schools, unfortunately, because private schools make money out of having students there, they keep telling you how amazing they are and how many jobs are waiting for the students afterwards. And then they come out and they realize, no, that was a lie. They just told us that, so they make money. So always ask students after the university with a bit of a, outer view of what happened there. And then if they say it's a good school, and it is a good school, nobody knows better than them. So that's a good trick, I think. And if you can't afford that in any way, maybe not moving to another city or whatever, that doesn't stop you from becoming a successful artist. It's just a bit harder to push yourself to get into the industry, because just my personal experience is, if you don't work at least 8 hours a day, better 10 hours a day, 7-day a week, even though that sounds a bit scary, but it's can be quite rewarding. If you manage to do that, however you do it, then you will find your way into the industry, because hardworking people who keep pushing themselves are needed and wanted. And by the way, I absolutely believe everybody with a common sense can do this job. That's all it needed. You don't have to be very clever. You just need common sense. And a lot of stuff is complicated, but just keep doing, keep learning, keep trying, understanding how it's done until you get it. And second, stuff like talent, I think is nonsense. Talent is just an excuse. You don't need talent. There's no such thing as talent. Actually, I remember there was a studie. What's the word? A study. Yeah, a study. Just not related to VFX, but in every field, they were looking at the best people in their field, chefs, scientists, musicians, and they figured out what is the source of success. And it was not intelligence, it was not such thing as talent, it was purely how much time did those people spend in their field. That was the only factor. And that shows everybody can do it. You just have to push yourself. And that's a beautiful thing, in my opinion, because everybody can be successful. It just matters how much you put into it, and that's a really nice thing. It really eased my mind when I read that. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, just put a couple more hours in every day, which is not easy. It's not, but everybody can do it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Especially because I have met people who were, well, what you would say talented. It came a little easier to them, but I also know people who. They went from zero, like they couldn't draw stick figures, to being able to draw anatomically correct, realistic renderings. It's
me too.
Amazing.
People who came from nothing, and they moved up to the highest ranks, and it's just that's really encouraging. Just keep doing it. Don't give up. It's always, if it's easy, you're doing it wrong. That's something I learned. if you hit this wall, then you're at the right place. Keep pushing, and then you know you do it right. Because those hard times, we all had them, and this is what you have to overcome. Don't stop there. That's a big mistake you can make. If it's easy constantly, then you do something wrong. Then you're not hitting where you should be. You always have to hit this wall where it gets like, damn it. Why is it not working? Keep doing it, and you can. At some point, you will bash through it. We were all there. Yeah.
Only way to get better. To talk again about this working condition and wage things, because I think it's talked about way too little. What can I do as an artist? Just as an artist, one little part of big machinery. If I am not satisfied with the working conditions, what can I do?
I mean, if you're lucky, for example, when you're in London, it's relatively easy. You just knock on doors of other studios until you find something different. If one general rule is, and I'm actually surprised how few people follow that rule, if you're not happy, change something. It's really surprising to me how many people are unhappy but don't do anything. It's really weird. I mean, I'm not saying, on the high level stuff, let's change the industry completely. No, I mean on your own personal level. If you're not happy at your job, well then look for another one. I don't get this. I see that so often that people are complaining and have you looked for something else? Oh no. And well, then nothing will change. Nothing comes for free. If you are not in the position that you're in London, for example, where the next studio is around the corner, I would say the best thing is to look around what's somewhere else. I think the most important thing, not only in our industry but nowadays, is flexibility. I mean, I moved from Berlin to Stuttgart to study, and then from Stuttgart I moved to London to work, and that is a bit of a disadvantage that you have to do it. At the same time, of course, it's quite a nice thing that you can do that. So again, be open about that and be willing to change things for your better feeling for your life. If that means changing the city, then you have to do it. I think it's worth it. That's, by the way, a general rule nowadays. I think the people who really lose nowadays are the ones that are tied to very specific circumstances, are not able to change it. As long as you are able to change it, keep trying. When at the same time, when you're happy, but for example your wages are still not good enough, like I already said, change your company often. That helps, because then you can rise your income. Another thing is maybe in general, how do you apply for a job? I gave a couple of tips that I was very successful with. Always give the first number. Don't expect the company, don't wait for the company to give you their expectations, because it's a psychological thing. If you set a number, even though it's too high for them, we're talking, when it's here, then we talk about this area. If you start here, then we will always talk about this area. it's very unlikely that when you start here that the discussion all of a sudden jumps to there. It's just a psychological thing. So always give your number. Always put the number a bit higher than you actually think. Not because you want that, but then maybe you settle down there and then you're exactly where you want it to be. Another thing is if you're too afraid that the number might be too high, I never even heard of the case that people said, oh, no, this number is too high. We stop the conversation right here and we'll never talk to you again. That doesn't happen. The worst that could happen is that they say, oh, that's quite high, isn't it? And then you say, okay, what's your offer? And then, we're back in the discussion. Those people don't want to waste time, so they will not stop the conversation simply because your number is too high. And I mean, again, the worst thing that could happen is they say no. By the way, another thing that came up that was interesting from a student, he started talking about blacklisting. That's a bit of a myth about, but I heard you can be blacklisted and then never find a job. When does that happen? First of all, I never saw anyone being blacklisted, and none of us in the panel really heard of this particular term, blacklisted. I don't really think it exists as a real thing. I think it's more like, sorry, excuse my French, don't be a you can bleep me out on that. Just be a decent person. Those are all people. So as long as you don't screw it up completely, nobody kind of blacklists you. For example, the people I've seen that were kicked out of a company, I agreed as an artist that they had deserved that. They really did some weird stuff, like they showed stuff in the reel they actually didn't work on, stuff like that. Just don't do that. You shouldn't do that. And if you do that, I'm sorry, you deserve that. But if you're a decent person that is honest and that is open, then nobody will blacklist you or kick you out or whatever. No. That's just a myth that scares people for no reason. Just be nice, be honest, don't lie. This is a very simple rule. Don't lie. If you didn't work on something, then fine, just say it. It's much better for the company to understand what's the real deal here than being lied to. That helps no one. Again, what was the question? Where did it come from? How do you change your wages? Yeah, right. How to make it? I think I said the most important ones. You said give the first number. Set it a bit higher than you think. More often than not, you will be surprised that people just say yes, and then you have more than you expected. Just be careful that they don't give the first number, because that's their job. That's another thing I would like to say. Don't forget, HR are professional negotiators. They do that for a living. So you have to realize that you're fighting a strong opponent. It's not fighting. I mean, we're all together in this, but they're not your enemy. But remember, they are really good at that. So you start first. Otherwise, they know quite well what they're doing. And the worst thing that could happen, like I said, is they say no. And another thing is that's something Oliver came up with. Applying to a certain position that is on a website by HR is not the only way to get into the industry. It's very important to have networks. I mean, you can like that or not, but it is a fact that networking is really important, like in every industry, really, because for the simple reason that if they can trust that a certain person is good, because certain people they trust tell them you can trust them, that's really valuable for them. They don't know, if they don't know you, you have to understand their point of view. What can they do if you're just some random dude? It happened to them before that people lied to them. So if another artist they trust says, oh, this guy is really good, then this is really valuable for them. So try to know a lot of people, say hi to a lot of people without being annoying. Keep your networks from the university, for example, because those networks are important. Be nice to people, that always helps massively. And then more often than not, you get jobs from somewhere, because those... once I got a job from actually applying to a position, but that was my first job. But from there, it kind of moved automatically because, I heard you're good, blah, 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 stuff, networking stuff. And that is quite important. Don't follow always the strict rules. Be nice, be polite, but sometimes you can break the rules and you can go where you want. yeah, that's all I can say about that.
Wonderful stuff. Super important things. Yeah, and I can confirm that. I think I haven't applied anywhere since a long time because I just got my jobs through networking and recommendations, and yeah, that's how it works. Okay, I think we got a lot of interesting information. Is there anything else you want to add?
I finished the discussion with a nice sentence, and I want to finish this as well with that. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
There you have it. Thank you very much, Christian Bohm.